Good afternoon and welcome. It is such a joy for me to welcome you all here today for the 2014 Grannie Annie Book Signing Celebration. My name is Connie McIntyre. I'm a co-founder and executive director of the Grannie Annie. And I'm just utterly delighted to have all of you here today, families and authors and artists and friends, celebrating family stories. So as you know, we're going to be celebrating with these young authors and artists and honoring them today and celebrating the 9th volume of Grannie Annie. But what you may not know is that this celebration has been going on for the entire year. This year, over 800 young people across the United States and beyond took part in the Grannie Annie. About 2/3 of those students took part in the story portion, which means they would interview a family member, learn something that they find interesting about their family's history, and then write a story about it. 449 of those young people shared their story with the Grannie Annie, and those stories were considered for possible publication. 35 stories were published. About 1/3 of the young people who participated this year illustrated a Grannie Annie family story, and I believe there were 157 of those illustrations submitted for consideration. 13 of those illustrations were published. So you can see it's a very big honor for the students who were published this year, and we're very proud of all of them and so pleased with their work and thankful that they shared their creations with all of us. The Grannie Annie Family Story Celebration has always been a grassroots sort of organization. It was started completely volunteer basis and remains primarily volunteer basis to this day, and that's really cool. And all of us who volunteer for the Grannie Annie truly appreciate the donors, both large and small, who make it possible for this project to continue year after year. And I am really honored to be able to tell you today that financial assistance for this year's project was provided by the Missouri Arts Council, a state agency, and also by the Regional Arts Commission, which is of the St. Louis area. And of course, yes, that's great news. Go ahead and clap. And of course, we're all really thankful to the Missouri History Museum for allowing us to gather today in this beautiful space. So we appreciate that as well. I believe that's everything that I had planned to tell you here today, but I actually have one I promise, very brief story that I just have to share with you. Yesterday, I was rushing around getting organized for today, and I had about 2 minutes to spare. So I turned on my radio, and I was listening and wondering, okay, what program is this? I don't even know what program it was. And it turns out it was a New York Times best-selling author who was talking about his new book, a relatively new book, I think it was. The title was something like The Secrets of Happy Families. I thought, oh, that's interesting. So I listened a minute longer. Would you believe what he had to say at that very moment that I had tuned in? He said that the very best predictor of emotional health in young people is whether or not they know their family's stories. How cool is that? And so I listened a little longer. And I want you to know, he went on to say that it's very important for parents to share, and grandparents and aunts and uncles and everybody else, to share not only stories about the good times in the family, but also those challenging times in the family, that they are equally as important in helping young people understand and navigate the life that's ahead of them. So congratulations to all of you who already knew that before you were told. And sit back, relax, and make yourselves comfortable, and maybe by the end of the next hour or two, your emotional quotient will have been raised a little bit more. Thank you again. I'm going to turn this over now to Fran Hamilton. Fran is the co-founder and the associate director of the Grannie Annie, and Fran is going to introduce you to a few key people who are here today. Thank you.